Hello and welcome to the Everything is Black and White podcast. Hope you guys are all doing well. We've got a fantastic show on the way. But first, I just want to say thanks to NordVPN, our sponsors here at the Everything is Black and White podcast, who without none of this would be possible. And we've teamed up with them to offer our listeners and viewers an exclusive offer. You can click the link in the podcast description box or go to nordvpn.com/Toon to sign up and save your pennies on a plan. It is well worth your time to sign up. You are secure, you are safe, and you're supporting the podcast. Why sign up? I hear you ask. Well, there are a host of benefits. For me, it is the value for money because one subscription can be used across 10 devices. That's your work phone, your personal phone, your tablet, what have you. 10 devices, one subscription. I mean, that is the definition of value for money. The other thing I love about it as well is the way that it keeps your details safe and secure when browsing on public Wi-Fi. So if you're on the bus, the train, you're in a cafe and you're connected to their Wi-Fi, there is always the risk that your details could be compromised. That's your bank details, your passwords, and a load of other stuff as well. But with Nord, you are safe and you are secure. And that for me means a heck of a lot. And look, if you're going abroad as well and you're missing your home comforts and you want to keep with it with all your UK streaming services, then you can click the location back to the UK and make sure you never miss your favorite program. What is not to love about it? It's absolutely fantastic. Very simple to get on board. You download the app, you sign up, and away you go. You're keeping yourself safe, you're keeping yourself secure, and you're supporting the podcast at the same time. And another benefit, and I've already mentioned three, and there are a host of other things to mention as well if we had the time. But the final thing I'm going to mention is a 30-day money-back guarantee. So it's literally no risk. If you don't like it, get your money back. But you will like it because it's a superb app to have on your phone. Keeps you safe, keeps you secure. And once again, you're supporting the podcast. So click the link or go to nordvpn.com/Toon to take advantage of an exclusive offer for our listeners and viewers of the Everything is Black and White podcast. Roll the titles. Hello and welcome to the Everything is Black and White podcast. It's time for the view from the opposition. This week it comes from Isaac Johnson, reporter for Leeds Live. First time on the show for Isaac. How are you doing? You well?
Yes, I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. I'm looking forward to this game. I always like travelling down to Ellen Road. It is one of my favourite away grounds to go to. I love the atmosphere and kind of how close you are to the pitch and everything like that. And it's obviously going to play a big role this weekend. What are you expecting from Saturday's game?
Well, a very vibrant atmosphere as always at Ellen Road. I think those who watched on the first Monday Night Football of the season saw that, and you can expect that again. There'll be probably a little more apprehension this time, given what's gone on since that night. Obviously, Leeds did win against Everton, but it was by a penalty, and after that, they lost 5-0 to Arsenal. And then after that, they've gone and lost to Sheffield Wednesday, a very young, a very inexperienced Sheffield Wednesday side. And Leeds had a few first-team players out on the pitch there, and they lost on penalties. So the mood is quite apprehensive. And it is important, really, that Leeds get back on track.
Yeah, let's talk about that Sheffield Wednesday victory in the League Cup. I mean, it's a derby first and foremost. So to lose to, well, not be a local rival, but a nearest rival, is bad enough. But then when it is a team made up of youngsters, and as you say, Leeds had quite a few first teamers in. I mean, there must be a fear that the impact and knock-on effect from that defeat will be huge.
Yeah, definitely, because they've just come off the back of a drubbing against Arsenal, which was going to dent the confidence anyway, despite what Daniel Farke said about, it wasn't that confidence denting. It will have been to an extent. I think Tuesday's game will have been more impactful. And so as a result, Leeds fans will be expectant. Ellen Road will always be behind the players. There's no doubt about that. But there's also a little bit of pressure that comes with that. And Newcastle, while they are absolutely, you guys are definitely in the top 7 clubs of the league. It's almost like, well, it's not quite Arsenal. It's not quite the title challengers. So we do need to try and at least put a bit more emphasis on it. And so in terms of player confidence, they need a good showing, basically. They need to put themselves back on a footing, and kind of remind everyone why either they were signed or why they're in the first team as well. So there'll be, like I said before, there'll be not only a bit of apprehension in the stands, but perhaps on the pitch a little bit as well.
Do you think it's either going to be like a wounded animal with a kind of a point to prove, or do you think they'll be feeling sorry for themselves come kick off on Saturday in terms of the reaction from Tuesday evening?
No, I don't think they'll feel sorry for themselves, but there's definitely an impetus to put on a good show, and they will know the ramifications if they don't. Now, whether Leeds win or not, whether they get a result or not, that's one thing, and obviously the hope will be so. But I think Leeds fans would accept a good showing and a narrow loss as well. It's just something to get them excited. And the thing really to watch with Leeds is their, or perhaps not watch, is their final third acumen, because there's been a lot of reinforcement. There's been £100 million spent this summer, and there's still questions and nerves over Leeds' creativity in the final third. So that is the thing that Leeds fans will be looking out for. Now, if they can see signs of progression there, then obviously, if a loss does happen, they'll be a bit more gracious. But if there's nothing happening up front, that is the sort of there'll be a few worries with only a few days of the transfer window to go.
And you mentioned there kind of maybe the expectation at home. Usually with teams that get promoted, the home form is the key to staying up. And Leeds have got a tremendous record at home. I think it's 21 games in the league unbeaten now. Obviously, most of them were in the Championship, but a good start against Everton. Does that put a bit more pressure on games at Ellen Road like Saturday? Because that is where people are expecting Leeds to have the best chance of collecting the points to avoid the drop.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's natural. Yeah, I think against your bigger hitters, so your title challengers and European contenders like Newcastle, there's a bit more grace with that. And everyone who looked at the fixture list at the start of the season would have seen 2 tough home games to start with, and tough 3 opening games overall. So there will be a little bit of grace there. And I think the more pressure will probably come against the likes of your Bournemouths, your Fulhams and Wolves and or the others that are more in the relegation battle than them. So that's where the pressure will lie. But yeah, definitely, Leeds will be targeting Ellen Road as a place where they can get the most points. And every game that they don't is one less game to try and get those points to stay up. We know that the board have given Daniel Farke a rough guide of 10 wins this season to try and stay up. That's not complete total points, by the way. That's just number of wins. And a lot of them will come at home. And like I say, everyone that doesn't come at home is even less home games for that to happen. So there'll definitely be some sort of pressure on the Leeds fans.
Talk to us about what happened against Arsenal, because for the first half an hour it was all right, and then the floodgates kind of opened. So what went wrong to concede 5?
Many things, but you're right. Yeah, they did the whole Arsenal out for half an hour, but it wasn't like really Leeds had many chances themselves or anything like that. Arsenal were fully the dominant team. It was a case of attack versus defence. Leeds did try and break away a few times, and they had a corner which they almost scored from. But once that first goal went in, it was always going to be an uphill battle, especially with that second goal as well. The defence, they looked a bit lost at sea after they conceded, definitely the second goal, but the first as well. They were quite confident in defence last season, and the worrying sort of sign defensively is the fact that they just sort of looked a bit out of kilter. the main thing that came from that really wasn't necessarily the result. It wasn't necessarily the defensive frailties, because you sort of expect that against such a strong side as Arsenal. It was the link to attack. There was just no link to attack. Farke tried a plan A, his plan A, which is basically to play the way that he normally does, but with the brakes on. That didn't work in terms of passing short. Then he tried to go long. That nothing stuck up top. And that was the main worry that came from the game, that Farke's plan B wasn't set. It wasn't clear that he had a plan B. And when Arsenal went 2-0 up, then there was no sort of real reaction to that. And that was the sort of the main worry.
Well, hopefully, from a Newcastle point of view, we can see a similar scoreline. How will Leeds approach the game on Saturday in terms of on the pitch? What are we expecting? Do they like to try and control games at home, or do they rather invite the opposition on? Can you just give our listeners and viewers some insight?
Yeah, so definitely Leeds will be looking to attack. That is Daniel Farke's philosophy, to attack and use possession, not whilst being silly. It's a very risk-averse manager, but you will see the fullbacks quite high. You will see probably only 3 back in defence, and that's like the 2 centre backs and 1 midfielder, where the fullbacks high, and then everyone else pushed on really. One big blow for Leeds is that Altanaka is out for the next few weeks, and he won't be there, compounding Ethan Ampadu's omission as well through injury. So that's 2 key midfielders that are out. And so Sean Longstaff will inevitably line up against his former club. And then you'll have Gruev, who a lot of questions have been asked of him in defensive midfield over the past 2 games. And you'll also have Anton Stack, who looks pretty good, but against Arsenal, he looked a bit leggy. So we'll have to see how he goes. So expect an attacking mindset from Leeds. And especially with Anthony Gordon out as well, and obviously Isak at the moment is with you guys. Leeds will feel a little bit of like there's a chance there, basically, and so they'll probably feel slightly more bold to push up. But yeah, let's see.
It's going to be interesting because obviously Newcastle United at this moment in time, I think, are better on the counter attack, and obviously if you had Anthony Gordon, they'd be even better. But we're really intrigued to see what happens up front, whether they'll get a striker in time, and it might be Strand Larson. At the time of recording this on Thursday morning, no deal has been accepted or confirmed, and obviously he will have to be registered by Friday morning to have a chance of playing. Will it be Willisula, who's got full of energy and confidence and really enthusiastic, but not that out and out striker that we need right now? Maybe Anthony Langa might get moved into the centre and Jacob Murphy come on the right. But I mean, whoever plays on the wings, they're going to have pace about them, and that might suit Newcastle on Saturday if Leeds are going to push onto them. If Newcastle can hit them on the counter, I mean, that must be a bit of a worry for Leeds. Seeing the speed of a Langa or Barnes, or if it is Murphy.
Yeah, that's definitely something that Leeds have to be aware of, especially because they do push the fullbacks up. They do leave a bit of space going backwards. Whether Farke adapts his style of play and perhaps play them more reserve, we'll see. I doubt that at home, if I'm being honest. He's more likely to do that away from home. So yeah, definitely Leeds Newcastle could exploit that. And also something to note, even though Rodon is fairly fast-ish, the other centre-back, whether that's Biol, the new signing for Leeds, or whether that is Pascal Struijk, who's been at the club for a little while, none of them are really that pacey. And so, yeah, there's definitely something that Newcastle might target there. In terms of the fullbacks, Jaden Bogle is pretty nifty. He can get up and down. So is Gabriel Gudmundsson, who is the new signing, the left-back from Lille. But again, he isn't fantastically pacey. So that's definitely something that Eddie Howe is probably looking at, yeah.
And again, at the time of recording, we don't know the full outcome of scans or investigations, if you like, into Sandro Tonali and Joe Linton's injuries. I mean, we suspect Joe Linton will be out for at least this game. Tonali may have a chance of returning. We don't know. Eddie Howe's press conference will be on Friday, but even then, we don't usually get any firm answers until the team sheet drops. But if Newcastle's midfield is without one of them or both of them, I mean, that's a huge boost, isn't it, to Leeds United? Because then you're likely going to have Lewis Miley, who's a great player with huge potential. And then Jacob Ramsey as well, slotting in alongside Bruno. But those three now played together, and you've gone from what I think is the best midfield in the Premier League with Joelinton, Tonali and Bruno to a midfield that's going to feel a little bit out of sorts. So I'm sure Leeds will keeping everything crossed that at least one of those players will be absent on Saturday.
Yeah, and that'll be a massive boost for Leeds if that does happen. I think from Leeds' point of view, they can't rest on that, though. They can't expect that. They've just got to act as it, because at the end of the day, with a club like Newcastle and the status that they've grown to now, any player that's going to come in is going to be of some sort of quality. So Leeds can't really rest on that. Of course, if the midfield three gets broken up, that benefits Leeds. But at the same time, like I said before, Leeds' midfield isn't exactly at full strength either. And so they're going to have to be, mindful of that as well. So it'll be an interesting midfield battle, I think, if any of the three are out. I think, if I'm being honest, I think Newcastle will probably have the stronger power in there. But let's see. I mean, having Sean Longstaff in the team, obviously he knows the players inside out. That's interesting. That's a real sort of benefit for Leeds. Whether that plays out, let's see, because he hasn't had a fantastic start to the season for Leeds. But yeah, so tomorrow is probably a big game for Longstaff, really, for his Leeds career. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask you how has it gone, because I was very positive about this move for Sean. I thought all he needs is someone where he knows he's going to get the chance to play. He knows what the next maybe year, 2 years hold for him, rather than at Newcastle with this constant speculation that he's going to go. And it was very clear towards the end of last season that he was not in Eddie Howe's first team plan. So I thought it'd be a great move for him. I thought Leeds getting a solid Premier League player who goes under the radar, does the dirty work, but allows other players to flourish. But I have seen some comments on social media that Newcastle maybe have robbed Leeds of 10, 12 million or whatever it was in the end for Longstaff. So is it not gone quite to plan so far?
I think it's still early days. It hasn't been terrific. I would say that they've stolen that amount of money. I think that's a bit too far. The general positivity when he came in was there, and it still is there. But having seen him in pre-season, having seen him in the first few games, it seems like he's just still getting used to life at another club, quite frankly. After spending a lifetime at another club, then having to move to another club, it's going to take time to adapt, and that's absolutely fine. He didn't start against Everton, and he didn't start against Arsenal. So at the moment, he would not be in the first three choices, and you would have expected that's probably the reason why Longstaff moved, is to get regular minutes. So that's interesting for him. When he did play, albeit in a disjointed side on Tuesday against Sheffield Wednesday, he didn't have a great game. I mean, no one did, to be honest. I can't say it was just him, but he was pretty anonymous in the game. But again, that could have been just because there's loads of changes in the team, and it was his first start for Leeds, competitive start for Leeds. So I don't want to cast too doomy a picture on that, because I believe in time he will become like a really important player for Leeds, especially with his Premier League experience. He's the most Premier League experienced midfielder they've got at the club. So he will be used and he will grow. It's just been a few teething problems. I think that's probably the best way to say it.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed he comes good, just not on Saturday. But let's talk about Leeds' biggest strength then. What should Newcastle be looking out for?
It's interesting because I would have said it would have been their midfield, but that's sort of been ripped apart now. So I think their biggest strength at the moment is the fullbacks, actually, because Jamie Bogle and Gudmundsson can go up and down the flank. They've got good production, they've got good stamina, they've got good energy. Whether that lasts the full 90 minutes, what you might see, especially with Gudmundsson, is Gudmundsson attacking quite a lot at the start and then probably sitting back a bit more towards the end. Bogle will just keep running up and down all day. And if there's one player I would advise Newcastle fans to watch, it is Bogle, because he is very efficient. He always produces an 8 out of 10 normally most games. and he scored the other night. He levelled when he came on. He levelled the game for Leeds against Sheffield Wednesday. So he's got an eye for goal too. So I would say the fullbacks are probably going to play a quite significant role on Saturday. Not only going forward, but obviously defending Newcastle counter-attacks as well.
I'm a big fan of Bogle. I think he's a very good fullback. You've had a couple of new signings through the door this week. James Justin, one of them, and right in thinking there's a striker as well being signed from AC Milan. Am I making that up? That's right, isn't it?
Left winger Noah Okafor, AC Milan. Yeah.
Are we expecting to see them?
Yeah. So Noah Okafor, I imagine, will start, I think, although it's 50-50 because no one played well on Tuesday. So after that, you don't really know. He did look sharp. He's had a full preseason with AC Milan, so he's definitely fit. It's just whether Farke thinks to throw him in. I think he will because the money they've spent on him, and the sort of probably status he's been promised. So I think he'll probably start on the left. James Justin won't start. He's very much he's brought in as a backup really for Gudmundsson and Bogle. Primarily Bogle, obviously, as a right back. So you might see him if sort of like later on in the game if one of the fullbacks gets tired or he needs to come on. So you might see him there, but he's not had much time with the squad. He only arrived a few days ago. Wasn't eligible to play on Tuesday. So by the time Saturday comes around, he'll only have a few team training sessions under his belt. So he might make the squad. Very push, he might come on, but I won't expect to see too much of him really.
And the biggest weakness that Newcastle can exploit, what would that be?
Probably at the moment, unfortunately, the attack, just because it just looks so blunt. I mean, the only goal that they've scored in the league so far, I know it's only been 2 games, granted, and they played Arsenal, granted, but it was from the penalty spot. Now, they're very good of getting up to the final third, and they're sort of moving the ball about there, but it's just that cutting edge in the final third, in the sort of eye for goal and the clinical touch, the clinical finish, the final ball. It's just not there at the moment, and this is what Leeds fans are a bit tentative and apprehensive about, really, and why they want more players coming in before deadline day in attack. Daniel Farke wants 2 more offensive players as well, ideally, and that sort of tells you the story. I think Leeds are not at where they should be in attack at the moment. You might see Dominic Calvert-Lewin come on. I don't think he'll start. He did come on the other night against Sheffield Wednesday. Missed a sitter, blazed over a penalty. So it wasn't a fantastic debut, but he was getting the right position. So there is a little bit of hope there, but I don't think he'll start. What might happen is you'll see Lucas Mecha, who scored the winner against Everton, start a new signing because he's a bit more bulky. He can bring the ball down a bit more and link up the play a bit more. But I think if I was Newcastle's defenders, I wouldn't. From what I've seen so far, I wouldn't be too nervous, unfortunately.
Well, we're also going to have a new partnership at centre back because Fabian Schär is more than likely going to be missing through a concussion. So probably Malik Thiaw will play. And he looked decent, came off the bench, had one brief slip against Liverpool, but from what we saw in that cameo, he didn't do too badly. So it's going to be quite the introduction to Premier League football if indeed he does get the nod and his full debut at Ellen Road. In terms of Newcastle United's players, Isaac, who is the player that you're most fearing, or you think Daniel Farke will be most fearing?
I think there's a number, really. I mean, if Bruno, I think it's that midfield, really. Bruno and Tonali, if he's fit. Those are the main driving engines, really, against like I said, a weakened Leeds midfield. So I would have said Anthony Gordon if he'd been available as well. I think they've got to watch out for Harvey Barnes. For some reason, he's got a really good knack of scoring against Leeds in his career. There's multiple, to be honest. There's multiple. Even though what I've said about the attack is blunt, I think Leeds might fancy the chances against the defence just because of they themselves have got a bit of height now. Nearly all of their signings this summer have been over 6 foot, and so they'll have a good aerial battle with them. But for the other areas of the pitch, yeah, Leeds are going to have to watch their guard a bit. But I think it's that midfield really that I'd be looking at.
Just finally, then, can you give me your score prediction? How is it going to go?
Oh gosh, I've not got one right so far this season. I'm going to be positive. I'm going to say 1-1.
Okay, well, I think Newcastle United fans will certainly be wanting more than a point. You know, we talked about how important it is that Leeds pick up points when at home against most teams to aid their fight against the drop. Well, if you're from a Newcastle point of view, if you're serious about top four football, then you have to be beating sides like Leeds with all due respect. So I'm going to go for a win. I don't think it'll be the scoreline we saw against Arsenal, but I am going to go for a win. I think it'll be close. I don't think it'll be pretty. I'm going to go 2-1, but to be honest, I'll take any scoreline as long as it's 3 points heading back to Tyneside. Isaac, thank you very much for joining us on the Everything is Black and White podcast. Thank you to you guys for watching and listening. If you're on YouTube, hit thumbs up, hit subscribe, get into the comments, and I'll get back to you if you're listening on the audio-only platform. Do leave us a rating and review. And remember to take advantage of your exclusive discount on your NordVPN plan. No risk with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Stay safe on your devices. One subscription across 10 devices, which is brilliant value for money. You can support the podcast at the same time by signing up. So do hit the link in the podcast description box. And I will see you guys for the Monday show next week.